notch grading in CAD Assist depends on the notch type you work with. If you want to get the information which notch type you work with, go to the display switch and activate the notch info. Then you get the information what type is applied to your notches. There are mainly 4 types. First one is an on-point notch. The second one, a distance from start notch. The third, a distance from end notch. And the fourth, the ratio notch. What does that mean? If you have a notch on point, that means this is a notch that always stays on its data point in the grading. So if I grade this piece, you can see the notch in each size stays on its data point. If I use a function notch modify and click onto my notch, I can see the notch type again, and I can see there is no additional option to give any information for the grading. And if there is a grade rule applied to the data point, in my case the rule number 15, then that means the on-point notch will automatically have the exact same behavior as the data point with the grade rule number 15. If you have a notch with a coding distance from start, that means that this notch always stays, in this case 6 centimeters from the beginning of the line. You can see 3 information of a coded notch. You see the notch code, distance from start, you see the position, and you see if there is a grade rule applied or not. If there is a value 0, that means there is no grade rule applied to this notch, and in that case the coding is also valid for each size. So if I grade my piece, you can see the 6 centimeter are in each size, and if I take my measurement to the notch, you can also see it with values. This notch always stays at 6 centimeters from the beginning of the line. The notch with the coding distance from end, again with notch modify and a click onto the notch, I can get further information. I can see my notch code, it's coded distance from end. The notch position is 7 centimeters from the end of the line, that means 7 centimeters from the waistline. And there is no additional grade rule on this notch, so the distance from end and 7 centimeters are valid for each size. So if I grade my piece, you can also already see that it's always the same distance. And if I take my measurement, you see it's always 7 centimeters from the end of the line. The notch coded with ratio is displayed a little bit differently. Again, with notch modify and a click onto the notch, you can get the further information. The notch code is ratio here. The notch position is 0.5, that means 50%. 0 would be the beginning of the line, 1 would be 100% or the end of the line. So 0.5 means 50%. There is no additional grade rule on this notch, so that means this notch always stays at 50% for each size. If I grade my piece, you can see it visually, and if you want to make sure and I take the measurements, you can see this part is 7.12 in the size, and you can see the distance in each size is always the same in each size. So this notch always stays in the middle of the line. There's one last option with a coded notch. So again, if I go to notch modify and click onto my notch, I get the information for this notch. You can see it has a coding distance from start and the notch position 10. But here you have a notch rule applied to this notch, or a grade rule applied to this notch. If you have a grade rule in this last line, that means the coding and the notch position is only valid for the base size, in my case the size 38, and for the other sizes this notch will behave as is applied in this grade rule. So if I grade my piece, you can see there is a kind of movement to my notch, and if I take my measurements, you can see I have different distances for this notch, 8 centimeters for the smaller sizes, 10 centimeters for the middle sizes. Then for 42 and 44 I have 12 centimeters from the beginning of the line, and for the bigger sizes 14 centimeters. And that is what the content of my grade rule applies. So the 10 centimeter is only valid for the size 38, the base size, and the rest of the sizes behave as is given in the grade rule. In another video, I will show you how to assign a grade rule to a notch.